For the regular viewers, this is not going to be very entertaining, just because I don't think they like me playing card games, but I don't care because I really like the Gundam card game. There's just a bit of an issue with it right now. I mean, there will always be an issue with every single competitive environment and competitive game. But right now, I think the Gundam card game is in a spot where if it just made a few tweaks, it would kind of be the best TCG in the world right now. And the thing we're going to start off with is, I know some of you are going to groan at me if you do understand the Gundam card game. It's this boy right here, Strike Freedom Gundam. Now, this card is strong. It's very, very strong. It's an 8/6, which means you get the opportunity to put this down for 6 cost, pair a pilot with it, hopefully blue Kira, get a draw, and then do whatever you need to do. My main issue with Strike Freedom Gundam, and it is the same issue with decks like Wing Zero before the Endless Waltz stuff, with Neo Zeon, XYZ. It's that if you don't play either an early aggro deck or a blocker deck, you usually will not end up winning a tournament. Because you will be out aggroed, you will be out pinged, depending on who you're playing against. Yes, I understand, Archangel. Or you'll get blocked into oblivion and you don't end up getting to this before you end up losing. So now, let's take a look at 2 of the decks that recently won regionals. I don't know if I just do this, if it will be able to show you guys. Yes, okay. So we have a 2-1-1-2, a 2-1-2-2, a 3-2-4-3, the first form, the adapt, 1 regular blocker, the Gujan Rebake, the Flauros, the Lupus, and the Strike Freedom. Now, I remember seeing the person who posted this on Twitter, and the first comment when he replied to it, or the first reply that he replied to, rather, said it was just luck. Like, I shit you not. However, this is kind of what I'm talking about right now. This curve is genuinely fine. The issue comes in, so obviously you can change these out for M1 Astray Strikes. These cards are not orb cards, clearly. Neither is this. You can't see the mouse. These cards, ignore this, are not orb cards, which is a problem for a deck that's supposed to revolve around orb. Now, I understand that the freedom in deck building and the good thing about TCGs is that you can mix and match any series you want to make the best deck possible and play with it. My main issue right now with cards like Strike Freedom, less so with New for this particular problem, and honestly, less prevalent now with Neo Zeon, is that this card does not specify orb. I think if it specified orb in it, it would make the orb deck itself much better. Just because you are forced to use orb cards to make this card work. Maybe not even just orb, but essentially a card that has to use cards that have this trait, or even earlier cards, like, for example, White Kira, who is an Earth Alliance. Yeah, you could say that for any of these. So instead of just choose 1 to 2 of your units, it should be choose 1 to 2 of your orb or Earth Alliance units. Well, this is the problem, is that Gundam right now is just good stuff. The more frustrating thing is that now we have decks like Londo Bell and MF, which are Londo Bell more so than MF. They are 100% supposed to be built around themselves. New exclusively needs Londo Bell cards in trash and to exile them. Neo Zeon needs exclusively Neo Zeon cards in order to use its effect effectively. Strike Freedom doesn't need to do that. And I don't really understand why. Because if that restriction was applied to this, you could have made this card individually that little bit stronger. And the reason why I don't think Strike Freedom and Orb is a good enough archetype just yet is because you have to do this, where you add in all these other cards, because you've got Mika for the ping, Adapt for the ping, the Gujon for the ping, and they've even included fucking Flauros to anti-aggro, essentially, which is kind of insane. But even then, you're only killing, I don't know, you're essentially killing Gun Tank or Shrikes or a regular 2-1-2-2. By the time this comes out, a different aggro deck, like the purple-green Xeon, this card is useless. So, yeah, my main issue right now is that a bunch of decks don't need to run their archetype. I think if they had built around archetypes much better and made those restrictive, I think the game could be much more balanced. I think playing against different archetypes would be much more bearable. And I think understanding each matchup comes a lot easier because you aren't just shoving good stuff into your deck. So this is the first one that we're looking at today. I hate this. Like, Lupus being in here, it's not a good card, but there's no reason to not put Lupus in, because if you find one of them and you're able to trash any 3 of these, you're at least dealing more ping. And plus, you've got the Mika, you've got the Adapt, you've got the Gujon. It's frustrating as hell. This fucking card, if EX Burst will even... Where is it? It's going to be down here with the big boys. This card, I genuinely believe, is too strong. While I think Strike Freedom is incredibly strong, it comes down at level 8, and the deck has no way to ramp. So what you have to do is put a bunch of low-level aggro and hope you draw into those first, and then steadily curve, or you play an absolute insane blocker deck, like the person who won a previous regional. Let me just whack this over here. Oh no, not that one. This one. It's this deck. This is the other one. Blocker, 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 draw, blocker, blocker, and bounce. Breach, rest, blocker, strike freedom. This is so fucking boring that, and it's the same issue that we've continued to have since, I don't know, set 2. Blockers have to exist because it's a way to stop people aggroing you. The only way you're able to stop people aggroing you, though, in a hyper aggro deck or even just a regular aggro deck, is you have to absolutely draw into these on curve. If you find Strike Freedom, Perfect Strike, Ale Strike, and Freedom, more so than you find your Zelotes, Lafriths, and Rick Diaz, you're gone. It doesn't matter. But the fact that you have to do this to make Strike Freedom work because he's level 8 and this deck has no way to ramp, this is how the game is forcing this deck to play. This card, however, goes in a deck that has ramp. And it has built-in ramp that's much better than the age ramp. I am fine with ramp in concept, but I hate the fact that you can get to this one turn earlier than Strike Freedom. When paired, you choose 3 Londo Bell cards from your trash. Why is it Londo Bell cards and not Londo Bell unit cards? Why does Lupus have to suffer with 1 cost more for this card to be able to do this? And this effect is incredible too, because it's a 5/5. When paired, you're only going to pair this with an Amaro. If you put the blue Amaro in it, yeah, he doesn't get the heal and he doesn't get the +1 HP, but you still rest something, and you're able to breach twice. because you go to the damage step resolves, the breach activates. When this unit destroys an enemy unit with battle damage. Insane. And the other new, the small new, whoops, I think I pressed back too quickly. The small new ramps into it way easier than, say, Death Scythe does. Because with Death Scythe, yes, you can put any Operation Meteor pilot into it to get the rested resource, but it's a rested resource for next turn. This gives you an EX resource, which means you're one turn up and it's not rested, so you can use that EX resource immediately if you want to. It also has Breach. Death Scythe has First Strike on the point at which you, when paired essentially. It gets First Strike when paired with an Operation Meteor pilot. But what's the point of that? Because why not just wait for Duo to come in hand? If you have it, you First Strike him for 6, and then that's it. You're subject to whatever. I just don't understand the reasoning. I mean, I do. I get it. Because it's power creep, and that has to happen. Otherwise, people just don't buy the new cards, or they don't put them in decks, and Bandai doesn't sell. But there's no reason why both news need to be as good as they are. And I don't want to hear it, that it's not as good as Strike Freedom. It absolutely is. It's a turn earlier at a 5 cost. You can put green ammo in it that allows you to survive. This is what I was saying yesterday during the tournament, or not during, but when I was talking to someone. The only thing that kills it is if you want to trade into a Strike Freedom. Or any of the other like 7.5/5.5s. It's insane. But then if you survive into most things, which you will heal 2 with green ammo, you will breach, you will then swing it into something else if you want to swing directly into a unit and potentially live again. Or you swing directly into the shield area, and that's 2 whole shields gone. You only survive that if you have an Argama. And in most decks, that's a 2 out of 50. Which is insane. I just don't like it. And I hate that people are so hung up on Strike Freedom, because when it was first revealed, it was like, oh, it's got this incredible effect that during pair on attack, you can discard 2 in a deck that draws and whatever. Yeah, great. But the rest of my deck is either quick aggro if I draw into it, if I don't, I lose, or I play blockers until I reach like level 6 or whatever, and then I'm playing Strike Freedom. I don't want that in my deck. I want my deck to revolve around its archetype. I don't want this, and I don't want this. If anything, right, I want it to be at least a bit more themed. I would have wanted, if we have to go with blockers, to go blockers into Big Thing, we go seed blockers all the way until, for example, level 5, because Perfect Strike and Ale Strike are seed cards. V-Dash is not. Freedom, Strike Freedom, Kira, whatever. And that's one of the things that irks me the most about Gundam right now. Because I don't play One Piece, and I know this happens in One Piece as well. It's that a lot of cards are not trait locked, so that you're allowed to make decks like this. And I understand that that gives more freedom to people, because they can, like I said earlier, play whatever combination of cards that they want to make the best decks. But I think this is a developer problem, in that you have all of these things like Earth Alliance, Triple Ship Alliance, Orb, Triple Ship Alliance. You have all of these traits from Seed, but for some reason, they're not all synergistic with each other. Like a perfect example with a card that just got revealed is Infinite Justice. It's an Athron Zala link opportunity. So it's a blue card with a blue pilot. If you want to play a Athron, you have to play blue-red, which means you lock yourself out of Justice, because it's a white card. Why couldn't the Infinite Justice just be a white card as well? So that you could play white-blue Justice Orb, or you could play white-blue Strike Freedom Orb, Or you could play white red Zaft with Atherin. I feel like that would make way more sense. This card individually is very strong because you get to destroy something with this unit, and then you get to heal an orb unit for 3. On like the deploy thing is a really weird effect. I don't particularly care about it. Like, you exile 3 units from the trash and then you return it to its owner's hand. Like, fine. By the time this comes out, you've probably already got those 3 in. You've got more than 3 in the trash, but it's still a bit of a weird effect. Why not just make this white? We already have a white orb card in the other Freedom. Where is it? It's going to be down here. This one. Look, it's an orb trait. But also, the first Strike Rouge is a Triple Ship Alliance trait with an orb trait for the link effect. It makes no sense! Oh, it's just the direction of some of these things. Like, they have knock-on effects of other things, but yeah, anyway, I should be reading chat. Lots of room for power creep to correct this problem when they bring out the Strike Freedom Type 2 and the Mighty Strike Freedom. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand that, right? But that will be a continued problem, is that, oh, well, they can course correct by Strike Freedom Type 2, Mighty Strike Freedom, any of the other Astrays as well, which are not technically all from Orb, but, you know, whatever. Like, you want to get into deep lore about Astray Gundams and stuff. Like, yeah, they can keep on course correcting, but then they're going to need to do it for the rest of the... I mean, like, a classic example, right? So we've got Galahorn. Never mind. That's... What? Gay. G-J-A-L-A-H. Okay. Okay. So Galahorn has been traditionally white, yeah? And Tekkadan has been purple. Now, they released this card this set. Choose one of your active Galahorn units, rest it. If you do, draw 1. This unit gains high maneuver. Purple card. Fucked up. Every single Galahorn unit, base, command, pilot has been white. But now, for Season 2, they've made these Galahorn cards red. Why? Galahorn did not need red for ping damage. What it needed was more synergy with purple, like this. Why release this card when you have a bunch of white cards at the moment that really need to power this? What do they want us to do? They want us to go purple-red, and they want this to be another problem that spawns from the Blurple issue that we had before. Because this, like, purple stuff pings, and this Galahorn red stuff pings. We're going to run into the same issue unless they do something drastic. Like, these cards will have been printed for, at minimum, 6 months beforehand, and they can't change them now, otherwise they'd lose a fuck ton of money. But unless this is like a very specific instance where it's just this one 2-card combo is ping, every other Galahorn red card is something different, then fine, but why make these two do that in the first place? Because we've got Gundam Vidar, we've got Kimaris Vidar, we've got Bile, we've got Season 2 McGillis to go through. It's just... I don't understand. Well, we need deck stage problems. By the time you're able to get new Gundam off the field, you're most likely losing the game already. That isn't the case with Londo Bell, though. Because Londo Bell has much better curve in terms of its units and its pilots. So... Actually, because it isn't just Londo Bell, you pair this with Blue Earth Federation. So, and that's what makes it the most cancer, right? So if you were just going to play Londo Bell, sure, you've got a 2-1-2-2. You've got essentially a bird mode, does the exact same thing. You've got Kyra's Jegan and Kyra's Jizzy, which is fine, because if you want these to be fully effective, you need this. But why is this a 3-2-3-3 with a DOP effect? I don't get it. This is essentially a Rick Dom from the clan deck, which is fine. Ra Kylum is an insane base, especially if you have this ammo array in. This is kind of fine, but I don't like the fact that it's a Londo Bell trait as well, so a link trait. This is just an insane card to put in this deck, and then you've got the new and the new. So if you were just playing a Londo Bell deck, I would say, yeah, probably by the time you put Big New on the field, you're probably losing the game. If you lose the game with this guy and this guy in your deck, with the rest of it being surrounded by stuff like Gun Tank, maybe the Alex, and then, Green Amaro, Small New, Big New, and all that other stuff, that's a you problem and not a deck problem. Like, you have misplayed something fierce, or you just got high rolled into oblivion. Because the curve of blue green new is insane. Justice for justice? Yes, please. Ping spam deck wasn't what Gallahorn was going for in the first place. You are correct, Henry. You are absolutely correct. That wasn't what Gallahorn was going for. Maybe they saw really early on that Gallahorn weren't getting played at all. So they said, let's give it one of our best archetypes and then pair it with one of the other best archetypes and just... I mean, your opponent's bent on getting new out on the field and you're losing. I don't really know what you mean. But yeah, that's just it's just a rant, basically, for the current state of the game. Like yesterday, right? I was playing. Do I even have it in my deck list? Did I log in? No. Cool. You can see my email addresses and you can send me hate mail. Please don't. My decks. Oh, I didn't even make it. Like on here. I think I just... Okay. Oh, by the time your opponent has Nuat on the field, you've probably run out of time to counter or trade with it with Sazabi or Strike Freedom. Yeah, absolutely. That is 100% true. So no, I do 3. Okay, so we do Shrike, Javelin, Kira. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. We do, I think it was 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got Arg. What am I missing here? 4, 8, 10. What units am I missing in here? I could, like, my bag's literally just over there. I could just, I'm just going to get it out. 1 second. If you remember, Henry, because you play against it a lot, then let me know. But I'll be like 3 seconds. So the Shrikes, the Strike Freedoms, the Kiras. Okay. Oh, right, Overflowing Affections. 2, 3, 4. Oh no, it was Rick Diaz as well. Oops. 3, 4. 6 more of... Oh, sorry. Yeah, 6 more of things. I can't remember. So 10 pilots, Kira's, Wildfell's Murasame. Because I moved off of playing the. Oh, and it was for Akatsuki. Yeah. And then there were 2 more things. What am I missing here? 4, 8, 16, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Even with the decks in my hand, I can't fucking remember what these last 2 are. Either you're able to store with blockers or something. If you don't have an Agama, then you probably could. I mean, yeah, the Agama is an essential thing against the Nu. The issue is that because we don't do best of 3s, we can't sideboard. So, like, if you lose against a Nu, for example, you can't just go, oh, cool, I'm not going to have 2 Archangels. I might, like, put 2 more Agamas in and maybe take out I don't know, maybe take out Andrew Wildfell's Murasame for a couple of something else. I don't fucking know. But, yes, definitely the Agamas are the problem, or rather the solution to a problem that's a whole deck. Why am I missing? Didn't have any of those. Katsuki, Strike Freedom. Is it an Earth Alliance card? I know I was playing Strike at some point, but... Hold on a minute. Apologies, bear with me. Oh, and it was 2 Busters. That was it. Buster. As like tech pieces, 6 AP. You know, you put white Kira in it, 6 AP. You put blue in it, it's just blue Kira in it, it's a 6 AP, and you draw a card. Yeah. So yeah, this is the deck that I've been playing a lot of, right? Matchups generally tend to go like this. If I find the Shrikes and the Javelins early on, amazing. I get to aggro you down. If I find alongside them the Wildfelds and the Kira Strike Rouges, along with, or any of the pilots, honestly, I've most likely won the game. However, if I don't happen to find these on curve, and I end up finding Busters, Strike Rouges, even a couple of Akatskis before I even see a fucking Shrike, this card is dead in my hand, these cards are dead in my hand, and I'm now reliant solely on these pilots to get me through the mid game, to get me to Strike Freedom. All the while, the much better individual units of Londo Bell, you get to search, you get to attack and active, you get to ramp. It's just, this is not as good, right? However, it at least tries to play into the whole point of Orb when it came out, which was to play for Akatsuki, so that you have as many low-level Orb units on the field, you whip out Akatsuki, and then you take control of something, right? So you get to Akatsuki at, say, level 4, level 3, or whatever. You reduce its cost and level by how many below level 6 Orb units you have, and then you compare an Orb trait pilot with it. You bounce something to an owner's hand, and then you start swinging, right? So if they've got a base, you swing in for 6, and then you start wanging your little dudes into the shield area. That's essentially how Orb wants you to play. It also has Archangel, which means that these can't get pinged for 2 or less, which is really nice, especially against like a clan deck or something. Or if somebody has close combats in hand, they have to wait or ping something else. Like, that little bit of tech is quite nice. But, and I will say it again, and very clearly, because I've probably not been super clear. Can you hear this phone? You can hear the phone. Bear with me. There we go. Londo Bell works as an Earthfed deck. There is no reason to kind of ever put any other cards in besides Earthfed cards. MF is an incredibly fun deck to play against and with. You will never catch me complaining about it. However, it has been built specifically for those cards, which makes a whole lot of sense because you've got the special move cards that you can use as commands, pair as pilots, activate the commands again. You've got the ping, which draws for Master Asia. If you're familiar with the game, you already know. It's got great synergy within itself. Orb at the moment doesn't, and it really starts to piss me off when people think that this card is the be-all and end-all of an Orb deck, because it isn't. The card itself is incredibly strong, and if you're able to get to it, you're usually going to win. And that's kind of generally fine. The problem is, it doesn't synergize with itself as well as it should. This fucking card. It's going to be future-proofed, or it is future-proofing itself, because of course we're not just getting the Infinite Justice, we're probably getting some more Ashtrays, we're probably getting some more Grunt units that are going to be Orb as well. It's just that right now, I need people to chill the fuck out about Orb as a deck. Because it's not as strong as people seem to think it is. You have to be really lucky either way with a deck like this in order to play it to its full potential. Ideally, you play a deck like this. It's like what happened with, like I said, original Wing Zero and what did happen with Neo Zeon. So you have to play these cards in order to get yourself to this as quickly as possible. The difference with this is that you play Victory Gundam, V-Dash, and Rainer Force, so that you can proc if you have 3 or more League Militaire units and play draw 1. And that synergizes well with the draw effects of Kira, of Blue Kira into Orb or Triple Ship Alliance cards. But Waldfels, Murasame, and Andrew are really good 2-card combos. The only issue is, why would you bother with it when you could just get this card out? Because this plus an Uso makes it 2. If you have a Rainer Force in, you've already summoned a token which counts as a unit. And then you get to draw a card. And it's a 5/5 instead of a 4/5. The upside is that Andrew gets the repair too, which is really good early game if you're able to find it. But this is good anytime, because it will break most bases and you will usually get the draw from it. And now, I guess, prescription, right? So it's all well and good me just complaining about things and saying, oh, well, this should be this way. My opinion on what they should do is neuter aggro into the fucking ground. I think... Okay, I was gonna say I think and then make a definitive statement. I think most people who play card games want to play the game for the duration of the time limit. They don't want to be aggroed down by turn 5 or turn 6 or whatever. In that case, after the whole you can't have more than 4 2/1/2/2s, I think they should restrict the fact that you can't have 2/1/1/2s / 2/1s alongside 2/1/2/2s. I think that is a major symptom of early game aggro. That means you immediately half the amount of cards that you can play for 1 cost at turn 2. And I think that's absolutely fine. When we get into the territory of like 3/2s, I think it becomes a bit more difficult, because you have your blockers at 3/2, and so you have the Rick Diaz, the Elfrith, and the Flat. I think like I say, it becomes a little bit more difficult. because, for example, the purple-green Xeon runs basically this, right? It runs 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Char. I think 2 of these. Maybe a couple of these. I've only seen a few people play them. Charzaku 2. What does he play? I'm not gonna bait his name out. Oh yeah. Then does he use any access? I don't think he does. Whoops. I don't know what else he plays. Usually because you don't get to that many turns before he just murders you. Maybe a couple of Googs. Don't think he plays Zanzibar. Might play Kunai maybe to make stuff block. No, maybe not. Can't quite remember the full list, right? But if we just look at this, by the time he's at turn 3, he can play 3 of these, which is insane, considering that this becomes a 3-2 when it swings. So it kills an EX base, it'll obviously kill a shield, it will kill a lower health thing, so it's usually a trade up in that instance. Charzaku 2 during paired destroyed is pretty fucking good because you get Char, which has high maneuver, so it becomes a 5-3. When it destroys, it creates a token. This, you get to search the deck when it gets destroyed. It's the exact same stat line. It becomes a 5-3, break most bases. You get to search the deck for something. Goof, deploy, you get a rested token. Char's Gelgoog, you can sacrifice something in your hand to get a Char back. Swing. Goog is just a Xeon trait link. And then you've got Xeon, which is an absurd card for an aggro deck. Because, yeah, it's level 6, which is higher curve than you generally want for an aggro deck. But when paired with any new type pilot, so that will be either Char, you deploy 2 2-1 tokens, which aren't rested. Oh, no, they are rested. No, wait. Yeah, so the arms aren't rested. When it gets destroyed, you have a rested token again. Foulmail, during your turn, you deploy a rested 3-1 unit token. Do you know how easy it is to flood a board here? The only thing that has seemingly been able to counter this is a Mobile Fighters deck. I need to actually watch those two people play to see exactly what happens, but this is absurd against any other deck. By the time you reach this, in a perfect world, you could already have deployed 6 of these. By the time you get to here as a blocker deck, you could have deployed 2 if you have Zelotes or Royal Gundams or Zawarts or whatever. That's ridiculous. So yeah, 2-1-2-2s should not be allowed to be alongside 2-1-1-2s or 2-1-2-1s. I think the 2-1-2-1s are a little bit more specific in that. Does that make sense? So cards like Exia Repair, I think, are strong cards, and they feed into any kind of mill deck, but this powers the Transam. It powers Exia Transam because you want 7 or more cards. Is it 7 or 10? 10 or more CB cards in your trash. Choose one enemy with the lowest HP, destroy it. So it's supposed to feed into this, right? If you're milling through your aggro deck and all of your units are under level 5 aside from Zeong, by the time you get to this point, you should be winning pretty effectively anyway. And by the time you get to Zeong, if you haven't won, your deck has failed you. Like, the heart of the cards was not on your side this day. And I really don't like the fact that in order to beat a deck like this reliably, you have to just hope that the opponent bricks. They'll take a CB. Well, that's only because the purple stuff for CB, specifically Exia, isn't as fleshed out as these two yet, as green-red CB. The main issue with green-red CB, especially the Kyrios stuff, is that it doesn't have a level 7. So you're not really building to anything. You're just hoping that you can find these in a big enough quantity alongside your pilots so that you can keep holding off somebody for as long as possible. It is a shame that 00 isn't as strong as it could be right now, but whatever. Exia Repair is a strong card, but it's also fine because it has the when this unit deals battle damage to an enemy unit that's level 4 or lower that has no paired pilot, destroy that unit. So it's Death Touch, basically, outside of a level 4 piloted unit, which is not impossible to do. It's just a very good card. Two cards to be good. I mean, yeah, the Trinity stuff is pretty garbage at the moment, but, you know, we'll see. But yeah, my kind of original prescription for this type of stuff is neuter aggro more. I think... So I come from fighting games, right? I'm sorry for the changing conversation topic, but it'll make sense, I promise. I come from a fighting game background. Rushdown characters are usually pretty good because you force knowledge checks on your opponent in order to deal with your character. And that's not entirely a problem. Because if you've been playing, say Tekken, for example, if you've been playing Tekken for decades, and there's a character that has rushdown abilities, it's on you to solve that problem. And that's not always an issue, because there will be openings that hopefully the developers put in. The issue with a card game is that you are essentially a victim of your draws. And if you don't draw solutions on curve as quickly as an aggro player is able to draw their deck in general, it becomes an absolute slog. And like I said before, you have to just hope, either in the first instance that they brick, or maybe second that they're just a bit of an idiot and don't know how to play the deck. Another problem is that aggro decks like these don't take much knowledge power. Don't take much brain power, I should say. It's just you play the things in the order that they come out, and the cards do the things for you. It's like the Adapt, it's like Mika, it's less so first form. Now we've got Ride, which is basically a command card Mika. Yeah, those decks just play the game for you, and it could so easily be avoided if you just start restricting that stuff to make it easier for people to have an actual game of Gundam, not, oh, I lost by turn 5. Some people will probably say, oh, well, it's better that the game was over quickly, so I wasn't just sitting there. I don't think that's the majority viewpoint of most people who play card games in a competitive setting. I think people want the back and forth. I think people are happy with how random draws can be, because at least during, an early to mid game, it's kind of a little bit scrappy here and there. It's potentially trading. Maybe there's a few instances where you're swinging 2 into shields or whatever, but then, the opponent's coming back because they're now a turn later, probably get a better link opportunity so they can swing into your, XYZ, stuff like that. As the game progresses, it's supposed to be a lot harder to figure out how to get your wins if the exchange is even. The problem with a deck like this that's allowed to exist is that, once again, you are at the mercy of their draws. The 2 ways that you can counter this would be command cards, which essentially say deal 2 to an opponent's unit, deal 3 to an opponent's unit under level 4, XYZ, stuff like that. The other one is, I've already said this, but yeah, the other one is blockers. Like things that you can do as a player playing against this. The issue with the command cards is that commands, direct damage cards like close combat, improved technique, is that they can't attack the player. They can only stop your opponent's units from swinging, which in and of itself is fine because you are stopping them. But if all you see is command cards that continue to have restrictions, so close combat is just a deal 2 damage, it's a 2/2. You can do it during main or during action. Because, of course, close. There we go. So, main action, choose one enemy unit, deal 2 damage to it. That's fine. The only restriction is that it costs 2. But then you get into the thing that deals 3, which is improved technique. Now, quite rightly, this has the restriction of choose one enemy unit that is level 4 or lower, deal 3 damage to it. If there are 2 or more of this card in your trash, then you can deal damage to any unit level 4, lower or higher, which is great because it means that you're purposefully playing improved technique with the intention of stopping your opponent from swinging into you by using these command cards. If you run out of these command cards or you don't see them, but the opponent continues to play the aggro cards, they can still start swinging into you. You have to rely on these to stop them from swinging. And that exchange, while better for the opponent who's playing against aggro, is still not the best solution for it. Unless they're able to see as much of a good curve as the opponent playing the aggro cards are. Because by the time you've run out of these cards to play, you have to play units, otherwise you can never win the game. So, I would say my kind of final prescription is restrict it so that you can either have 2 of each or 4 of one. And I think that's absolutely fine. Potentially even in any capacity. So 3 of one, 1 of the other, 2 of each. You can't have 4 and 4. I think that would be absolutely fine. Because you're still restricting the amount of damage that a card like this can do alongside this. In this instance, it means that Zaku 2 can't keep swinging in for 3 every single time. It means that Shrike has to be limited. So if we ever get an orb card that says, for example, is it just a generic 2/1/2/2 in order to power Akatsuki, 100% I take that 2/1/2/2 anytime over Shrike because I don't care about the fact that it's a gun tank and can do a little bit of ping. That's not interesting to me, and also, it doesn't fucking matter. That's not what the deck is about. So any day, I take the 2/1/2/2 orb card over the 2/1/1/2. Just because it's a generically better card. If I wanted to, I could do 2 of each or 3 of one or whatever, but there's no reason to. In this instance, I think it's fine if you have maybe 3 of these and 1 of these. It just, once again, means that you can't flood the board with more than 4 of them. In terms of this and this, I think this is where you run into problems, right? They both do different things, but they both have the exact same stats that become the exact same statted unit with Char in it. What do you do here? Do you do that to these cards as well? Do you say cards that are 3/2, or no? Do you just say that cards that have the same card name at level 3 can't be paired together as a 4 of each as well? Because in that instant, I mean, not that anybody's doing it right now, but we have Strike Gundam, which is a 4/2/3/4, and then we have Kira's Strike Rouge, which is a 4/2/3/4. The main difference is that this is a Orb/Kira trait, and the Strike Gundam is just a Kira link trait. Nobody's playing that Strike, but it would be fair, I would say, to make that distinction. However, once again, if nobody's doing that with this card, for example, as it's a level 4, if you do the same thing for level 4/2 costs, is it fair to do it to this deck because you are running 8 of them altogether? Because that's the most effective way to get the most what's the word? The most value out of having 4, 6, 8 chars. Like, this is what I mean by it becomes a little bit more complicated. I mean, unreservedly, I would like to see that happen, right? Because nobody is going to end up playing this card unless they really want the super hardcore aggro with the tokens. But most people will probably play this because it's a much more valuable card where you get to kill something essentially with 5 AP, and then later down the line you get to bring Char back anyway. With this card, it goes away and the unit token comes down, but it's not going to be as effective as, say, finding a Gelgoog or finding a Goog or finding a Zeong, right? Because it says you may reveal one unit card among them and add it to your hand. Yeah, I mean, like, or it could find itself, for example. I would personally like it to happen, but I can understand why that kind of umbrella restriction for specific specific cards with specific traits could be a step too far for some people. I am personally, I've already said it, I'm fine with it. Because if we just take a look at the orb deck again, right? I didn't even save it, did I? Alright, that's my fault. But yeah, Javelin, Shrike, Rick, Buster, Kira. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I guess an example could be, oh no, because that's a 4-3 and that's a 4-2, and the stats are reversed. What would even be the problem with this? Like in an orb deck? Like obviously, apart from you would have to essentially say you can't have the Javelin alongside the Shrike, so you get rid of Javelin and you put something else. Probably the Murasame just for more orb stuff. But then at least you're forcing the archetype to be more consistent within itself, rather than saying, well, I don't have a 2-1-2-2 in blue for orb, so I just run Javelin or fucking Jim or whatever the hell. Hyzak, I don't care. You know what I mean? Like at least you're forcing that archetype, because the other Murasame is a 3-2-2-4, which is the same stat line as Wildfell's Murasame, but has a completely different thing. Now, okay, so here's the example. With the 3-2-2-4, same stats, same level, same cost, same stats. However, this is a link unit, and this is a kind of generic unit with a really shit effect. If the developers say, okay, we're doing this kind of blanket restriction where we say level 3 2-cost units that have effects you can only have 4 of in a deck. You're obviously going for Wildfell's Murasame, right? Because nobody is playing 4 of these. So once again, with a blanket kind of, if we do it for the 3-2-3-2s, or if we just do it for the level 3 2-cost units, specifically that targets decks like Purple Green Xeon, or I guess if just for argument's sake, just Green Xeon because of the chars. It obviously hinders that much more than it would hinder this orb deck. But, well, yes, it is fair. Because not only are you being forced to stop just shoving all of these cards in a deck to make it the best aggro's ever seen, but you're forcing more creativity as well. On the other hand, let's just clear this again. If we have a look at Goof, which is a 3-3-2-3, what other card has this stat line? I don't know of any off the top of my head. Does anybody in chat know? Any of the other people that are watching this probably sighing at me saying, what the fuck are you talking about, Danaro? Let's just go. Hold on. Well, no. Go away. Filters. Unit. A 3-3-2-3. Right. Okay, so we have Noin's Ares, Stark Jegan. Nope, that's a 3-3-3-3. 3-3-2-3. Oh, there isn't any. There probably will be in the future. And if it's a Xeon card, do you say, well, do I play Goof? Or, for example, if Goof Custom ever becomes a thing, do you just say you have to pick 4 of those? Or do you restrict it to, say, maybe 6? So you do 3 and 3, 4 and 2, 5 and 1. Like, this is where the conversation starts to get, like, really nuanced. And implementing blanket bans very clearly benefits a player like me who likes playing, mid-range decks and potentially a few more blocker decks or whatever. But it's mostly because I like to have a game go on as long as possible, so I don't feel like I've just been completely steamrolled with something that's out of my control. There's the Goof is there. 3-3-3-4 is the Gustav Karl. Yeah, there is no other card like that, right? Yeah, the Goof Custom is the only 3-3-2-3, it looks like. And then with the effect, because it lacks the other AP, you get the 1/1 unit token that's rested. Yeah, I don't really know. Like, I can continue to say, yes, I would be fine with that, because not only does it force more creative deck building from everyone, but it also just neuters aggro players, and they are then forced to be a little bit more creative in the way that they make decks. Do you risk alien? Actually, this is a question for people watching right now. Do you think this would alienate people on a large enough scale that the game would end up dying? Or rather, and if it did, would it be worth it so that the people that did stick around had longer games and that it would take a little bit more effort to actually get through a game? And then you might actually end up being a little bit more cucked by your draws if you don't draw the actual specific cards that you need on your curve. But because then I would say I have so many conflicting thoughts. Because then I would say that's just the nature of card games, right? That you are always going to be at the mercy of your draws. You can add in cards like draw power or, deck searching or whatever. Also, yeah, I agree with Henry. We should have limited but actual deck searching, because I think that would go a long way for cucking aggro a little bit more as well, so you could find answers to things. But yeah, just I don't know. Like, I very clearly want this game to succeed, right? I was vocal this way about Soul Calibur 6 as well. Like, the direction that the developers were going with Soul Calibur 6 was a good one. It was just that it needed that little bit of an extra push. It needed to implement rollback. It needed to implement better balance changes. But I would have still played the game if it kept on getting support. Absolutely, I would, because it's the game that I loved. And I will continue to play Gundam because I know that Bandai, unironically it being Bandai for Soul Calibur as well, I know that they're capable of really good changes, like the one we saw with Blurple and the restriction on 2-1-2-2s. I just hope that we get more communication from them. And I mean, they did say they were talking about how the fundamental rules of the game are, so maybe we'll see something there. There's also an argument against people playing, pure blocker decks and stuff like that. But a major symptom of people playing blocker decks is the fact that in decks like Strike Freedom, you have to play them because a lot of the other decks are just better at playing mid-range into Big Thing. Like right now, if Orb had just as much synergy for getting into Big Thing without having to just run blockers as Londo Bell does, I don't think we'd be having this conversation nearly as much as we are right now. Like, the discourse is everywhere. Anyway. Right. Yeah. This was just going to be kind of like a deck profile. But it very quickly turned into, what the fuck is wrong with the Gundam card game? And I think power creep is also fine, right? I think as long as there isn't a massive jump in power creep, I think it's fine, because you kind of have to. There are some cards that will always be in the game. Like, there's a reason why Chang Wufei is getting a block 2 card, or there is one now from regionals or whatever, is because, you know, it's kind of an essential card. We'll get Hero, we'll get the green Hero as it, I'm sure. We'll get white Kira as a block 2 card, I'm sure. Because as long as you're going to make different blocks for cards, there's no way you can not have Kira for siege units, right? There's no way you can just not include Hero for Operation Meteor or G team units. But for, you know, nobody's going to make a fucking block 2 or whatever for Gamma, right? What is Gamma right now? So Gamma's DOP is block 1. Oh, I only put, yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, Gamma's a block 1 card. Like, nobody's playing this anyway, but there's no reason to put Gamma in a block 2 card because he doesn't even survive that long in UC. But anyway, it's been just over an hour since we started the conversation. I'm sure some people watching will probably have completely opposite takes to me, and I am very ready to have conversations about this. Just like I'm always happy to have conversations about the relative strength of characters in fighting games, especially Soul Calibur, since I know that pretty down pat. I think it's good to have healthy discussion. I don't think it's useful to just start screaming about cards being OP or cards and decks being useless or whatever. I think as long as the conversation is generally measured on both sides, even if you still end up disagreeing vehemently at the end, I think that's okay. But yeah, this will be the end of this part of the stream, I guess. We do have, I don't know, the rest of the evening to play a game or two. I do still need to watch the Phantom Blade Zero State of Play, actually, now that I think about it. Was that streamed somewhere? Probably on Twitter as well, right? Oh, that reminds me. I need to go into my settings and turn off this training AI bullshit, don't I? Is it content preferences? Nope. Security and privacy. Training for generative AI. Okay, so I'll refresh. And it is turned off. Beautiful. Yeah, fuck Gen AI. It's a scourge on the planet. It's a bit hour 12. Actually, you know what? We're just going to call it there. I am probably either going to go play some Rematch or For Honor or something. Because I am unable to buy any new games because my debit card got stolen and I had to essentially lock my bank account. So that's going to be fun, waiting for that to come through the post, hopefully in time to get paid. Otherwise, it's going to be an interesting conversation with HR. But yes, thank you for those who came along. Thank you to those who were chatting in chat as well to engage with the conversation. I appreciate you all. We will be back more regularly because I have stuff to say and talk about and content to make about things. And I hope you are all not just excited, but willing to sit there and engage with me as I talk about things. Be more vague, right? But anyway, yeah. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe. And I will see you all potentially tomorrow. What time do I finish tomorrow? Let's have a quick look. I should also probably do more like IRL stuff / streaming, like IRL streams about the GCG2 and I'm at locals and things like that. I finish at 5:30 tomorrow. Okay, I'll be probably around 7-8 o'clock. I'll get back, settle in, have some food, and then come online and do some maybe more ranting about Gundam. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, stay safe, bye bye, and I'll see you tomorrow. Follow if you enjoyed. Love you, bye. Mwah!